He walked into the grand business gala, confident and proud, but froze the moment he saw her. The maid he once humiliated now stood on stage as a powerful CEO. In a world full of struggles and second chances, every story hides a lesson worth learning. This is Afnan Art, where ordinary lives become extraordinary tales. Sit back, open your heart, and let the story begin. The morning sun poured through the glass walls of Ethan Cole's penthouse, high above Fifth Avenue. Below, the city roared with honking taxis and flashing billboards. Inside, everything glistened: marble floors, gold-framed mirrors, designer furniture. Ethan walked through it all like a man born to rule. A tailored navy suit, Italian shoes, and a wristwatch worth more than most people's yearly salary. He checked his reflection and smiled with pride. "Another day to remind New York who's in charge," he murmured. In the corner of the kitchen, Ariana more quietly arranged breakfast. Her uniform was spotless, but her hands trembled slightly as she placed the plate down. Ethan glanced at her with annoyance. "You're slow again. Do you have any idea what time it is?" "I'm sorry, sir," Ariana said softly. The coffee machine was acting up. Ethan scoffed. "Excuses? That's what poor people are best at." Ariana bit her lip and lowered her gaze. She had heard worse. Every word felt like a slap, but she needed the job. Her mother was sick, and every dollar she earned went to the hospital bills back in the Bronx. As Ethan scrolled through his phone, a notification flashed across the screen. Another article praising him as Manhattan's real estate king. He grinned and turned the screen toward Ariana. "See this? That's what hard work looks like. You should try it sometime." She looked up, eyes filled with quiet defiance. "Maybe I will someday." Ethan smirked. "You? Don't make me laugh. People like you don't climb ladders. You clean the floors beneath them." The room fell silent. The only sound was the ticking of his luxury clock echoing through the penthouse. Ariana turned away, blinking fast to hold back tears. That night, while Ethan attended another elite party, Ariana stayed behind to clean up. From the balcony, she watched the lights of the city twinkle like dreams too far to reach. She whispered to herself, "One day, I'll make it out of here. And when that day comes, I'll never let anyone talk to me like that again." Down below, the streets of Manhattan stretched endlessly, filled with noise, ambition, and people chasing success. Ariana didn't know it yet, but fate was already writing her name among them. Days turned into weeks, and Ariana's life inside Ethan Cole's penthouse became a silent battlefield. She woke before sunrise, scrubbed the marble floors, polished the glass walls, and made sure every inch of Ethan's glamorous world shined like perfection. Yet, no matter how much effort she gave, he always found something to criticize. One morning, as she carefully placed his breakfast tray, Ethan frowned. "The toast is cold. Do you enjoy wasting my time, Ariana?" Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "I'll make another one, sir." He leaned back in his chair and smirked. "You should, because the only thing worse than being poor is being lazy." Ariana felt her chest tighten, but she said nothing. She'd learned that silence hurt less than arguing. Every insult was a reminder of the line that separated their worlds. His, made of money and pride. Hers, built from struggle and quiet dreams. When Ethan wasn't home, she often sat by the huge window overlooking Manhattan. She loved the view of skyscrapers and city lights. They reminded her of possibilities, of freedom. She would whisper softly, "Someday, I'll have my own office in one of those buildings. Someday." That dream kept her going. At night, while Ethan hosted his extravagant parties, Ariana stayed in the small staff room behind the kitchen. There, under the dim yellow light, she studied on an old laptop she'd bought secondhand. She watched free online business lectures, read about startups, and practiced how to speak confidently. Her favorite quote hung above her tiny desk, written in blue ink. "Work hard in silence. Let success make the noise." But her courage was tested again one rainy evening. Ethan came home early, furious after losing a major real estate deal. He threw his jacket onto the sofa and shouted, "Ariana, get me a drink." She hurried to the bar and poured his whiskey. But her hands trembled. The glass slipped, spilling across the floor. Ethan's voice roared through the penthouse. "Are you blind? Do you know how much that costs?" Ariana bent down quickly, her hands shaking as she cleaned the shards. "I'm sorry, Mr. Cole." He stared down at her, his voice cutting like ice. "You're nothing but a mistake someone forgot to throw away." For a moment, everything stopped. The rain outside beat against the glass windows. Ariana's reflection shimmered on the wet floor, her eyes filled with pain, but also something new, determination. She stood slowly, meeting his gaze for the first time. "One day, you'll regret saying that." Ethan laughed, cruel and amused. "You? Don't make me laugh, Ariana." But she didn't flinch. She turned, wiped her tears, and continued her work in silence. That night, while Ethan slept peacefully in his luxury suite, Ariana packed a small notebook under her pillow. It was filled with sketches, business ideas, and dreams too fragile to share. She looked at the city lights through the narrow window and whispered, "Not yet, but soon." The tension in the penthouse had grown unbearable. Ariana could no longer find a moment of peace in that shining glass cage. Every glance from Ethan felt like a blade. Every word he spoke carried the same message: she didn't belong. It was late on a Friday night when everything changed. Ethan had invited several wealthy investors to his home for a private dinner. The dining room sparkled with crystal glasses and gold-trimmed plates. Ariana moved quietly around the table, refilling wine and serving dishes. Her heart pounded with the hope that maybe, just maybe, the evening would end without humiliation. But fate had other plans. When she reached for Ethan's glass, a drop of red wine slipped over the rim and stained the white linen tablecloth. The room fell silent. Ethan's jaw tightened. His voice, sharp as broken glass, filled the room. "Unbelievable. Even pouring a drink is too much for you." One of the guests chuckled awkwardly. Another looked away. Ariana's hands trembled. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll clean it right away." Ethan leaned back in his chair and said loudly, "Do you know how much this cloth costs? More than your monthly salary, I'm sure." Laughter rippled across the table. Ariana's eyes glistened, but she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. She set the bottle down, straightened her shoulders, and whispered, "Excuse me." Then she walked away. The room went quiet as her footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Ethan watched her leave, slightly irritated. "She'll be back," he muttered to one of his guests. "People like her always crawl back when they need money." But Ariana didn't come back. Instead, she went to her small room, took a deep breath, and began packing her things: a few shirts, her notebook of ideas, and the small framed photo of her mother. On the table, she left a handwritten note. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Cole. I've learned more than you'll ever know. But I can't stay in a place that makes me forget my worth. Someday, I'll build something of my own. And when that day comes, I hope you remember this night." When Ethan found the note hours later, he smirked and tossed it aside. "Another dreamer," he muttered. "She'll end up right where she started." But as he looked out over the glittering skyline of Manhattan, something inside him felt oddly quiet. The city lights reflected on the glass, sharp, cold, and endless. And somewhere out there, Ariana Moore was walking away into the unknown, with nothing but a bag in her hand and fire in her heart. The rain began to fall over the city, washing the streets clean. For Ariana, it felt like the first breath of freedom she'd taken in years. The night bus from New York to Los Angeles took 3 long days. Ariana sat by the window, her small suitcase under her feet, watching the changing landscapes roll by, from gray city skylines to golden deserts, from rain to sunshine. She had no plan, no friends waiting, and only a few $100s left. But for the first time, she felt free. When the bus finally stopped at Union Station, she stepped out and breathed in the warm air of California. The city was alive with movement. Palm trees swaying, street musicians playing, and strangers chasing their own dreams under the golden light of the West Coast. She found a small rented room above a cafe in East Los Angeles and started working as a waitress. The job was tough, but she smiled through the exhaustion. Every tip went into a jar labeled Future. At night, after closing the cafe, Ariana sat by the counter with her old laptop. She studied business courses online, read about renewable energy, and watched interviews of women who built empires from nothing. One story, about a female engineer who created affordable solar lamps for villages, changed everything for her. She whispered to herself, "Energy that changes lives, maybe that's my path." From that moment, an idea began to grow, to build something that could help families like hers in the Bronx. something that gave light to people who lived in darkness, literally and figuratively. Weeks turned into months. Ariana started sketching designs, learning about solar panels and sustainable technology. She even met a retired technician named Mr. Harris, who worked at the cafe every morning with his coffee and newspaper. He noticed her notes one evening and said, "You've got ideas, kid. Don't let them die in a notebook." His words sparked something inside her. With his guidance, she began building her first prototype, a small, affordable solar battery that could power a lamp for hours. She tested it on the rooftop of the cafe one night. The light flickered, then glowed strong and steady. Ariana smiled, so wide she almost cried. "It works," she whispered. "It really works." That little lamp became the seed of her dream. Mortec Energy, a startup dedicated to bringing renewable power to low-income communities. She worked tirelessly for months, saving every cent to buy materials, filing for small business permits, and convincing local shops to stock her products. Slowly, the orders began to grow. By the end of the second year, Mortec had a small team, a tiny office in downtown Los Angeles, and a mission that touched hundreds of homes. For the first time, Ariana wasn't just surviving, she was building. One evening, as she stood on her office balcony watching the sunset paint the city gold, she smiled softly and whispered, "Mom, I made it this far. But this is just the beginning." Far away, in Manhattan, Ethan Cole was losing his grip on the empire he once bragged about. But Ariana didn't know that yet. For now, all she knew was hope, and the sound of her own dream taking flight. 3 years had passed since Ariana Moore left Manhattan. The girl who once scrubbed marble floors was now the founder and CEO of Mortec Energy, one of the fastest-growing renewable startups in California. Her small idea, affordable solar batteries for working-class families, had turned into a revolution. Her technology was being used across Los Angeles, San Diego, and even small towns in Texas. Her face began appearing in tech magazines under bold headlines. Ariana Moore, from Maid to Innovator, the woman lighting up America. But behind the spotlight, Ariana worked harder than ever. Her days started at dawn and ended past midnight. She led her team with calm strength, never shouting, never belittling, always listening. She had seen what arrogance could do to people. She promised herself she would never become like Ethan Cole. During one meeting, her marketing manager said, "Ms. Moore, we just got invited to the Forbes Tech Summit in San Francisco. You'll be on the same panel as some of the biggest CEOs in the country." Ariana paused, her hand still holding a pen. "That's unbelievable," she said softly. "Let's make sure we're ready." That night, sitting in her modern but humble apartment, she stared at the city lights outside. Los Angeles glittered, not like the cold shine of Manhattan, but warm, full of life. She thought about how far she'd come, how every cruel word had pushed her closer to this moment. Meanwhile, across the country, Ethan Cole's empire was cracking. The real estate market had shifted. His luxury developments sat unsold, and his investors were leaving one by one. At meetings, his confidence began to fade, though he would never admit it. One afternoon, his business partner said bluntly, "Ethan, your brand's reputation is falling. You need a partner. Someone with innovation, not just money." Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. "Find me anyone worth working with." Days later, his assistant returned with a report. "There's a new company in California, sir. Mortec Energy. Their numbers are incredible. They're young, they're growing fast, and their founder's a sensation." Ethan barely looked up. "Mortec? Never heard of it." He turned the page, but the photograph caught his eye. Ariana Moore. Her confident smile stared back at him from a glossy magazine cover. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. His throat went dry. He whispered, "It can't be her." The article headline read, "From Bronx Maid to Billion-Dollar Visionary, The Rise of Ariana Moore." He sat back in his chair, stunned. The woman he once humiliated now led one of America's most promising companies. And without knowing it, he was about to need her more than anyone else. That night, as he stood by the window of his once crowded penthouse, he saw his reflection in the glass, tired, older, and uncertain. For the first time, Ethan Cole didn't feel powerful. He felt small. Across the country, Ariana prepared for the upcoming summit. She practiced her speech, unaware that her past was walking right toward her, dressed in a suit, carrying regret instead of pride. San Francisco shimmered that night beneath a sea of golden lights. The grand ballroom of the Hilton Bayfront Hotel was alive with laughter, champagne glasses, and the hum of polished conversations. It was the annual Global Entrepreneurs Gala, the most prestigious networking event in America. Every influential business figure had come to celebrate innovation and power. Inside, beneath a chandelier that sparkled like starlight, Ethan Cole entered in his signature black suit. Cameras flashed as he walked the red carpet, forcing a confident smile he didn't quite feel. His empire, Cole Empire Real Estate, was quietly falling apart. But tonight, appearances mattered more than truth. He greeted familiar faces, shook hands with investors, and pretended that nothing was wrong. "Still building cities, Ethan?" a man joked. Ethan smirked. "Still building dreams." But deep inside, the cracks were widening. The announcer's voice echoed through the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the recipient of this year's Rising Innovator Award, Miss Ariana Moore, founder and CEO of Moretech Energy." Ethan froze. The name struck him like thunder. The crowd applauded as the spotlight found a woman walking onto the stage in a flowing emerald green gown. Her smooth, dark skin glowed beneath the lights, and her long, straight hair framed a calm, confident smile. She radiated elegance, strength, and grace, the complete opposite of the quiet Maid he used to humiliate. Ethan's chest tightened. "Ariana," he whispered under his breath. The room was captivated as she began to speak. "When I started, I had nothing but a dream. I wanted to create light for families who couldn't afford it, because I knew what it was like to live in darkness. I believe that success isn't about wealth. It's about the difference we make in people's lives." Her voice was steady and powerful. The audience erupted in applause. Ethan could only stand there, staring at her, lost between admiration and guilt. As she stepped off the stage, dozens of people surrounded her, investors, reporters, tech giants. Cameras flashed, microphones extended. She smiled at everyone, patient and composed. Her assistant whispered, "Miss Moore, Mr. Richards from the Clean Energy Council would like to meet you." Ethan wanted to approach, but his pride rooted him in place. He watched from a distance as she laughed and spoke with other CEOs. The same woman who once cleaned his glass table was now commanding the room. He finally took a deep breath and walked toward her. "Ariana," he said softly. She turned, her eyes meeting his. For a brief second, she said nothing, as if searching her memory. Then, a slow smile curved her lips. "Mr. Cole, it's been a long time." Ethan swallowed hard. "You look different." She chuckled lightly. "So do you." Her tone was polite, but distant, the kind of distance built by years of pain and growth. He tried to sound casual. "I've been following your work. Moretech is impressive. Congratulations." "Thank you," she said, her expression steady. "It's been quite a journey." Ethan hesitated. The words were heavy on his tongue. "Maybe we could talk sometime. About business. My company is." She gently interrupted, her voice calm, yet sharp. "You mean Cole Empire? The same empire that rejected clean energy partnerships 3 years ago because, as I recall, you said nobody cares about cheap sunlight batteries." Ethan's face stiffened. "You remember that?" "How could I forget?" she replied. Her eyes held his, not with anger, but with the quiet strength of someone who had already forgiven but would never forget. "We're not the same people we once were, Mr. Cole. You taught me something important back then." He frowned slightly. "What's that?" "That I never needed your approval to matter." Ethan said nothing. The room around them seemed to fade, leaving only silence and the echoes of everything left unsaid. Before he could respond, a journalist approached Ariana with a microphone. "Miss Moore, can we have a quick interview?" She turned to Ethan and smiled with gentle finality. "Excuse me, my company needs me." And just like that, she walked away, graceful, unstoppable, radiant. Ethan stood still, watching her disappear into a crowd of flashing lights. For the first time in years, he felt small again, smaller than he ever had, even when he was poor, because now he understood what true power looked like. That night, after the gala ended, Ethan sat alone in his hotel suite, the cheers from the ballroom still echoing faintly in his mind. He stared at the city lights through the window. They used to remind him of victory. Now, they reminded him of her. He whispered into the quiet room. "You were right, Ariana. I should have treated you better." Outside, The lights of San Francisco glittered like 1,000 second chances, and Ethan Cole silently wished for one. The morning after the gala, the fog rolled softly over San Francisco Bay, painting the city in shades of gray and gold. Ariana Moore sat in her suite near Union Square, sipping black coffee while scanning through her emails. Invitations flooded her inbox, partnerships, interviews, keynote offers. Her company had become the new face of clean energy. But even in her success, her thoughts returned briefly to last night, to that one unexpected face in the crowd. Ethan Cole, the man who once made her feel small, now looked lost beneath the ballroom lights. For years, she had imagined what it would feel like to meet him again. Would she be angry? Would she gloat? But when it happened, all she'd felt was calm. The past no longer owned her. Across town, Ethan sat in the lobby cafe of his hotel, staring into his untouched espresso. His assistant was explaining numbers, but he wasn't listening. "Mr. Cole, if we don't secure a partner within the next quarter, our investors will pull out. We're running out of time." Ethan rubbed his temples. His voice was tired. "Set up a meeting with Mortech Energy. I want to talk to Ariana personally." The assistant blinked. "Mortech? Are you sure? They already declined our proposal twice." "Then we'll ask again," Ethan said firmly. "This time, I'll handle it myself." 2 days later, Ariana was reviewing a project blueprint when her assistant entered the office. "Ma'am, we just got a meeting request from Cole Empire." Directly from Ethan Cole. Ariana looked up, her pen pausing midair. "Ethan Cole." "Yes, ma'am. He wants to discuss a partnership, clean energy integration for his new developments." For a moment, the room was silent. Then Ariana smiled faintly. "Approve the meeting. Tomorrow. Here in my office." The next afternoon, the glass doors of Mortech headquarters opened to reveal Ethan Cole. He walked in wearing a navy suit, confident but uneasy. The receptionist's voice broke through his thoughts. "Welcome to Mortech, Mr. Cole. Miss Moore is expecting you." He followed her through the hallway. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, and the Mortech logo gleamed on the wall behind a quote, "Power for everyone." Ariana was waiting in her minimalist office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. She stood as he entered, extending her hand politely. "Mr. Cole, it's been a while." He took her hand. "It has. You've built quite an empire." She gestured toward the seat across from her desk. "Please sit. Let's talk business." Ethan sat down, trying to find his voice. "Your company is remarkable, Ariana. You've achieved something incredible. I won't lie, I need your technology. I want Cole Empire's next projects powered entirely by Mortech systems." Ariana leaned back slightly. "That's quite a change of heart. I remember a time when you said people like me shouldn't dream too high." He exhaled slowly. "I was wrong." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence hung heavy but not hostile. It was the kind of silence that carried memories too loud to say aloud. Ariana looked at him carefully. "You understand, Mr. Cole, Mortech only works with companies whose values align with ours. Respect, equality, sustainability. Can you honestly tell me your empire stands for that?" Ethan hesitated. The old version of him would have argued, deflected, or laughed. But now, all he could do was face the truth. "No," he said quietly. "But I wanted to." Ariana studied his expression. The pride she once saw had been replaced by humility. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried exhaustion, like a man who had fought too long to protect something already gone. She finally spoke. "Then prove it. Not with words. With action." Ethan nodded. "Give me the chance." "I don't give chances," she said calmly. "I watch people earn them." The meeting ended with a handshake, professional, distant, but meaningful. As Ethan walked out, he turned once more to see her standing by the window, sunlight tracing her silhouette. He whispered to himself, "You were never beneath me, Ariana. You were just waiting above." That evening, Ariana sat alone in her office, watching the skyline. She had power, success, and peace. But somewhere deep inside, she felt something stirring. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe forgiveness, or maybe the beginning of something she thought had died long ago. The following weeks were some of the hardest in Ethan Cole's life. The empire he had built on arrogance and pride was collapsing piece by piece. Deals fell through, investors withdrew, and several of his luxury projects were halted mid-construction. His name, once a symbol of power, was now whispered with doubt in boardrooms across New York. He spent long nights staring at the city from his penthouse, watching the lights blur through half-empty glasses of whiskey. The same skyline that once filled him with pride now felt cold and distant. The silence in his home, once peaceful, had become unbearable. For the first time, he felt the weight of loneliness, not the kind cured by money or success, but the kind that comes from realizing you have no one left to blame but yourself. One morning, his longtime accountant entered his office with a thin folder and a tired expression. "Ethan, I've gone through the numbers twice. If you don't secure new funding within a month, you'll have to sell most of your holdings." Ethan rubbed his face with both hands. "Sell whatever you have to." The accountant hesitated. "You still have the Manhattan penthouse. Are you sure?" Ethan looked out the window, at the home that once symbolized everything he thought he was. "Yes," he said softly. "It's just a view, not a life." Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Ariana's company continued to soar. Motivational had just signed a partnership with a major environmental foundation to bring solar power to low-income communities in Detroit. Her name appeared on television, in newspapers, and on billboards across the state. But success hadn't made her forget where she came from. She often visited schools in poor neighborhoods, speaking to young girls about believing in their dreams. "You don't need a mansion to feel rich," she told them. "You just need hope, and hard work that never stops." One afternoon, while reviewing donation plans, her assistant entered the office. "Miss Moore, there's a man outside asking to see you. He says it's important." "Who is it?" she asked, without looking up. "He says his name is Ethan Cole." Ariana's pen froze. For a moment, the room seemed to fall silent. She took a slow breath and said, "Send him in." Ethan entered quietly, wearing a simple gray coat instead of his usual expensive suit. He looked tired, older, yet somehow more human. Ariana studied him. "You look different," she said softly. "I sold most of my company," he admitted. "Lost a few battles with the market and myself." She nodded slowly. "I heard about it." "I'm sorry." Ethan gave a faint smile. "Don't be. I built something out of ego. It was meant to fall." He walked closer to her desk, his voice sincere. "Ariana, I came here not for business. I came to apologize. For everything. For the way I treated you back then. You didn't deserve any of it." Her gaze softened, but she didn't speak. He continued, "You worked hard, you dreamed big, and you made it happen. And I was too blind to see your worth. You showed me what real success looks like." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sunlight spilled across the office, glinting off the Motivational logo behind her. Ariana took a deep breath and finally said, "I forgave you a long time ago, Ethan. Not for you, but for me. Holding on to anger keeps you small, and I promised myself I'd never be small again." Ethan nodded slowly, his voice barely a whisper. "You've changed." "No," she replied, her smile calm and steady. "I just became who I was meant to be." As Ethan turned to leave, Ariana called out softly, "Mr. Cole." He stopped and looked back. "There's a charity project in Detroit next month," she said. "We're building solar grids for hundreds of homes. If you really want to change, come help us." He blinked, surprised. "You trust me with that?" She smiled faintly. "Everyone deserves a second chance." Ethan's lips curved into the first genuine smile he'd felt in years. "Then I'll be there." When he left her office, Ariana stood for a long moment by the window. The sun dipped over Los Angeles, painting the sky gold. Somewhere deep inside, she felt a quiet peace, not just for forgiving him, but for knowing that life had brought them both exactly where they needed to be. Detroit was cold that morning, but the sky was clear and full of light. Rows of small brick houses stood side by side, their rooftops glistening with frost. Children played in the streets while volunteers unloaded solar panels from trucks. The sign on the fence read, "Power for Hope, a Motivational initiative." Ariana stepped out of her black SUV wearing a simple white coat, her hair tied neatly behind her. Her boots crunched over the frozen ground as she greeted the local families. "Good morning, everyone. Today, we're bringing something that belongs to all of you. Light that never runs out," she said, her voice calm and warm. Among the group of volunteers, she noticed a familiar figure carrying a heavy solar frame on his shoulder. His coat was dusty, his hands roughened by labor. But his posture, once filled with arrogance, now carried humility. It was Ethan Cole. Ariana watched him quietly for a moment. He didn't see her right away, He was busy helping a young man align the metal brackets on the roof. When he finally turned and saw her, his breath caught for a second. He gave a small nod. "Morning, Miss Moore." She smiled faintly. "Morning, Mr. Cole. I didn't think you'd actually show up." "I said I would," he replied. "Guess I'm trying this thing called keeping my word." She chuckled softly. "It suits you." Throughout the day, Ethan worked alongside her team. He climbed ladders, carried boxes, and drilled bolts into panels. Sweat soaked through his shirt despite the cold air. The volunteers were surprised to see the Ethan Cole, the once famous Manhattan mogul, working like an ordinary man. But to Ethan, it wasn't humiliation. It was freedom. At lunch, they sat together on the back of a pickup truck, sharing sandwiches and hot coffee. Ariana looked at him and said, "I never imagined I'd see you doing this." Ethan took a sip of coffee and smiled. "Neither did I, but it feels right. For once, I'm building something that matters." Ariana's gaze softened. "That's what I used to wish for you, that you'd find what really matters." He looked at her, his eyes sincere. "You always had it, Ariana, even when I couldn't see it. You were never meant to serve anyone. You were meant to lead." The wind brushed past them, carrying the laughter of children playing nearby. For a moment, silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, but deep. Later that afternoon, as the sun began to set, the first house lit up. The solar grid powered on, and a soft golden glow filled the small living room. The family inside cheered, the kids jumping up and down. Ariana smiled with pride, while Ethan quietly wiped a tear from his cheek. He whispered, "Now I understand why you do this." "Because everyone deserves light," she replied. "No," he said softly, looking at her. "Because giving light heals you too." That night, after the volunteers left, Ariana and Ethan stood together overlooking the glowing neighborhood. The stars were just beginning to appear above the Detroit skyline. Ariana crossed her arms, her breath visible in the cold air. "You've changed, Ethan. The man I knew before would have never been here." He looked down, a faint smile touching his lips. "That man died a long time ago. I guess I needed to lose everything to find myself again. Maybe that's the only way we learn," she said. Ethan turned to her, his voice quiet but steady. "Ariana, I don't expect forgiveness or friendship, but I want to help you, to build more of this, to fix what I've broken, in business and in life." She held his gaze for a long time. There was no anger left between them, only understanding. "Then let's see what you can do," she said softly. "We'll start with a partnership." Ethan blinked, surprised. "A real partnership?" Ariana smiled. "A fair one this time." As they shook hands under the dim streetlight, the gesture carried more meaning than any contract ever could. It wasn't just a deal, it was redemption. For Ethan, it was the first time in years that he felt truly alive. And for Ariana, it was the first time she realized that forgiveness could build something even stronger than success. It could rebuild people. A year passed, and the world had changed for both of them. Moretech Energy and Cole Foundation had become partners, not just in business, but in purpose. Together, they expanded Power for Hope into more than 15 states, bringing light to thousands of families. The news called it the unlikely alliance that reshaped America's clean energy movement. But for Ariana and Ethan, it was more than headlines. It was healing. They spent countless days traveling from city to city, installing solar panels in small towns, speaking at conferences, meeting people whose lives they had helped brighten. Each trip brought them closer, yet both were careful. They had learned from pain and pride, and neither wanted to rush what time was already riding softly between them. One evening, after a long event in Washington, D.C., they sat together on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. The air was cool, and the city lights reflected softly on the reflecting pool. Ariana pulled her coat tighter while Ethan sat beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee he'd bought from a nearby cart. He handed her one. "Extra sugar, no cream. You still like it that way, right?" She smiled. "You remember." "I remember everything," he said quietly. For a while, they both sat in silence, watching the reflection of the Washington Monument shimmer in the water. The night was calm, but Ethan's heart wasn't. He looked at her, the woman he once destroyed with words, and saw not his past, but his future. "Ariana," he said finally, his voice steady but low. "I spent years thinking money was everything. Then I met someone who showed me that character is worth more than gold. You didn't just build a company. You built me." Ariana turned to him, her eyes soft with surprise. "You built yourself, Ethan. I just stopped standing in your way." He gave a small laugh, but his voice trembled when he spoke again. "Do you believe people like me deserve love? After everything?" She looked at him quietly for a long time before answering. "Love isn't something you deserve or don't deserve. It's something you grow into." Ethan took a slow breath, his courage rising with every word. "Then maybe I've grown enough to finally ask. Would you let me love you, Ariana?" Her lips parted slightly, her heart beating faster. The city's noise seemed to fade, replaced by the sound of wind brushing the water. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, with a faint smile, she whispered, "You already do." Months later, under the California sun, the world watched as Ariana Moore and Ethan Cole stood together at the opening of the Moore Cole Innovation Center, a joint venture dedicated to sustainable energy research. Reporters took photos, children waved flags, and the crowd erupted in cheers as they cut the ribbon side by side. Ethan leaned closer and said softly, "You know, I used to think being on the front page of Forbes was the peak of success." Ariana smiled at him. "And now, he said, taking her hand in his, "success is standing here beside you." The cameras clicked as they looked at each other, two people who had started on opposite sides of pride and pain, now united by purpose and love. That night, they held a small ceremony in a garden surrounded by family, friends, and the people whose lives their project had changed. The air was filled with laughter, music, and the soft glow of solar lamps, her invention, lighting the entire place. When Ethan took Ariana's hand under the string of warm lights, he whispered, "I once thought I'd never be forgiven. But you didn't just forgive me. You taught me how to live again." She smiled, her eyes glistening. "And you showed me that even the darkest hearts can find light." As they exchanged vows, the wind carried the scent of flowers and new beginnings. Their hands intertwined, not the hands of a boss and a maid, but of equals, partners, and soulmates who had learned that love wasn't about power, but redemption. The night ended with laughter, music, and the gentle hum of solar lights glowing across the garden, a symbol of everything they had built together. The girl who once served coffee to a millionaire now stood beside him as his wife, his partner, his equal. And the man who once lived for pride now lived for love.